Welcome back to the deep dive. Today, we are really immersing ourselves in a source material that is so profoundly focused on what it means to be human, especially in the face of, well, extraordinary difference.
It really is.
We're looking at the emotional architecture of a community that's kind of forced to redefine kindness through the eyes of one remarkable 10-year-old boy, August Pullman.
It's such a powerful deep dive because it takes this universal experience. I mean, the sheer terror of trying to fit into a new school, and it just refracts it through this lens of a truly singular struggle.
Absolutely.
The emotional gravity is, it's right there from the beginning.
Yeah.
In August's own words, which really serve as our hook, I feel ordinary inside. But I know ordinary kids don't make other ordinary kids run away screaming in playgrounds.
Wow, that quote just, it hits you immediately. It's devastating.
It is.
It sets the stakes perfectly. You have this internal self that's completely relatable, mundane even, versus this external reality that is just profoundly isolating.
Right.
So our mission today is to move beyond, just a surface plot summary. We want to analyze the really complex emotional and social landscape of Augie's transition into 5th grade at Beecher Prep.
And to do that, we've got a whole stack of sources, narratives, internal thoughts, secondary accounts that give us this rare multi-perspective view. We're not just looking at this through Augie's eyes.
No, not at all.
We are analyzing the entire solar system that orbits him. The profound burdens on his sister Via, the conflicted loyalty of his friends Jack and Summer, and even the systemic resistance from characters like Julian and his parents.
Yeah, this isn't just a story about overcoming a physical challenge. It's about how one person's presence can be a catalyst, really forcing an entire community to look at its own moral compass.
It's a true shortcut to understanding why those small choices, the ones we often consider unnecessary, are the things that actually build character.
Exactly. Let's get into it. So we have to start with August himself. He's the center of this universe. And the sources, they begin by establishing this fundamental contradiction of his life, which is his appearance.
Right.
We know he has a complex craniofacial difference, but he intentionally doesn't describe it to the listener. He just says, whatever you're thinking, it's probably worse.
And that refusal, that's his first line of defense, isn't it? He's basically challenging the world's fixation on the surface.
Preemptively. Yeah.
By denying the physical details, he forces you, the person taking this in, to focus on his internal state. The ordinary kid who loves Star Wars and his dog.
But to really get the courage it took to just walk into that school, we have to understand the scale of the medical battle that came before 5th grade.
Oh, absolutely. And the scale is just astonishing. The sources detail his medical history, 27 surgeries since birth.
27. It's almost impossible to even conceptualize what that means for a 10-year-old body.
It's this unbelievable marathon of medical trauma. And the sources specify that the major reconstruction surgeries, the ones just to make sure he could, breathe and eat and form words, that all happened before he even turned 4.
Before he was 4.
And even after that, he was still undergoing 2 or 3 surgeries every single year. So you have to think about the psychological impact of that. Constant pain, constant recovery, always anticipating the next procedure. His baseline state isn't just normal kid stuff, it's exhaustion and chronic vulnerability.
And that right there answers that fundamental question of why he was homeschooled. It wasn't just the fear of...
Exactly. It was a matter of survival, really. Frequent procedures meant frequent illness, high risk of infection, and long recovery periods. His mother, Isabel, she became his full-time caretaker, his teacher.
She put her own life on hold.
Completely. And that stabilized Auggie, but it fundamentally reshaped the entire family structure.
For a learner who might be wondering about the specifics, sources do get pretty technical, describing his condition as this composite of extremely rare anomalies. They even use genetic terminology that can feel a bit overwhelming. Maybe we can break that down a little?
Of course. I mean, the sources use these highly specialized terms like mandibulofacial dysostosis, which affects the jaw and face, and a bunch of other syndrome things.
Right.
And when the parents went to geneticists, they heard terms like germline mosaicism and chromosome rearrangement, often explained with these complex Punnett squares.
But what was the simple takeaway for them and for us?
The simple takeaway was that this was a complete medical mystery, utterly unpredictable and unpreventable. The geneticists were basically saying, this is a 1 in a billion chance event.
A lightning strike.
A lightning strike. It's that blend of medical fact and existential mystery that the family had to live with. And it also makes his survival, what early doctors didn't think was possible, feel like a miracle.
That context really makes his very existence feel like an act of defiance. And the most detailed visual description we get, it doesn't even come from Auggie, it comes from the people who love him, especially his sister Via.
Via's narrative is so crucial here because she's seen him through all 27 surgeries. She grounds the abnormality with this unflinching but loving eye. She describes his eyes being set extremely low and slanted, with no eyebrows or eyelashes, and bulging because the eye cavities are too shallow.
And the ears.
The ears, yeah. The inward pinch where his ears should be, making them tiny and sort of cauliflower-shaped. And his nose is disproportionately large and fleshy.
And what about the structural modifications? The jaw surgery must have been incredibly complex.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The jaw was a massive challenge. He had this severe overbite and a tiny undersized jawbone, which meant he basically had no chin.
So what did they do?
He needed a piece of his hip bone surgically implanted into his lower jaw just to give it some structural integrity. That's why he needed a feeding tube for years. The fact that he can now speak and eat on his own is what the family considers a huge success, given how dire things were at the start.
But he didn't face that early world completely unprotected, did he? The sources point to this really crucial symbol of his early life, the astronaut helmet.
The helmet, yes.
Yeah.
It was this literal physical shield he wore everywhere until he was about 7. He had to stop because of an eye surgery.
And he loved it.
He loved it because it gave him anonymity. He could go around like every other kid, and nobody thinks I look weird. It was like a self-imposed quarantine, letting him experience the world without the constant burden of the stare. It tells you everything that he preferred a heavy, stifling helmet to just facing the world barefaced.
This intense level of medical need and protection leads us right to the family dynamic, that protective bubble they created.
Isabel and Nate, the parents, created what the sources call an intensely devoted microcosm. The mom, she sacrificed her career as a children's book illustrator. Just put it on hold indefinitely.
And the dad.
Dad's the master of distraction, the enthusiastic jokester who used humor to cut through all the tension. They just circled August constantly.
But that extreme devotion, it comes at a high cost, especially for the planet orbiting that sun. Via, we really need to spend a minute on her psychological burden.
Oh, Via's perspective is one of the most painful in the sources. She wasn't just neglected, she was parentified. She learned very early that she doesn't complain about her needs, her missed school plays, her own problems, because they were always nothing compared to what August has gone through.
She had to figure everything out on her own.
Everything. Homework, projects, life. She just internalized all the family's pain and resentment, but could never express it.
And she describes this sort of cosmic shift when August decides to go to Beecher Prep. She says, the galaxy is changing. Planets are falling out of alignment. That's such a powerful metaphor for what's happening inside her.
It speaks to this deep fear of losing the only structure she's ever known. She feels her parents still circle August like he's still the baby he used to be, and she kind of resents that they've sheltered him so much that he actually believes he's ordinary.
Because she knows the world isn't like their living room.
Exactly. Via knows the world is harsher. So the move to school is terrifying for Auggie. But it's also this frightening emotional moment for Via. Her identity as the quiet, protective sister is finally being challenged. She's realizing that for Auggie to grow up, her whole world has to change.
That profound, silent sacrifice is what makes the emotional cost of their family structure so incredibly heavy. So with that internal world established, the decision is made. They're going to push Auggie into the external world. Mainstream 5th grade at Beecher Prep. And let's analyze the timing, because it was a very deliberate choice.
It was a conscious attempt to, mitigate the social trauma. They applied secretly, because if he didn't get into the super competitive Beecher Prep, they wouldn't have worked him up unnecessarily.
Smart.
But the key was the timing. 5th grade is the start of middle school. Their logic was, everyone is new, everyone is awkward. This should, in theory, minimize the focus on Auggie as the one and only new kid.
And as we mentioned, the parental coping mechanism kicked in immediately, focusing on the principal's name.
Oh, the parental humor is just a perfect study in distraction as a defense mechanism. The sources detail how Dad, Nate, was the only one who could reliably cut through Auggie's anxiety with these totally inappropriate jokes about Mr. Tushman's name.
Like what?
Well, they fantasize about him being paged over the loudspeaker.
Yeah.
And the best one was the idea of setting Mr. Tushman up on a blind date with Dad's old college professor, Miss Butt, so they could have a bunch of little tushies.
That's just genius parental humor. It's so shocking it overrides the fear.
Exactly. And when Auggie finally meets Mr. Tushman, he's instantly surprised.
He was expecting some kind of caricature to match the name.
Right, a huge round rear end or something. Instead, he meets this tall, thin man wearing these really cool red Adidas sneakers who immediately kneels down to Augie's eye level to talk to him.
And that's so important.
That moment of intentional physical leveling, showing respect, not towering over him, that's the first crucial, small act of kindness in this new environment.
Tushman's attempt to prepare the ground was also strategic. He recruited a pre-tour committee, Jack Will, Julian Albans, and Charlotte. And this is where the social calibration really begins.
It's immediate, isn't it? The difference between microaggressions and microaffirmations. Julian, unfortunately, sets the antagonistic tone right away. His impertinence, as you said, is not masked at all.
He just jumps right in.
Jumps in with, "Were you in a fire?" And later he tries to sound smart using words incorrectly, and Auggie corrects him on supposedly, pointing out the word is supposedly. Julian's cruelty is aggressive, it's confrontational, and it's designed to make Auggie feel inferior from the jump.
But the sources pivot so quickly to Jack Will, who offers that crucial counterpoint.
Jack's reaction is almost involuntary. He just whispers, "Julian's a jerk." And that's it. It's immediate, unprompted validation for Auggie.
And Auggie manages to smile.
Yeah, and because of his condition, his mouth doesn't curve up. It's this difficult, straight-across smile. But Jack notices it. He sees the effort, he sees the emotion behind it, and he smiles back.
That recognition, seeing the internal emotion despite the physical presentation, that's what sets the stage for everything that follows with them. The friendship, the betrayal, all of it.
It really is.
But the real terror hits when the school year officially starts, especially during the lunchtime challenge.
The cafeteria is a social gauntlet for any middle schooler. But for Auggie, it's a public performance of his extreme vulnerability. He avoids the line, pulls out his packed lunch.
He's very self-conscious about how he eats.
It's extremely. He has structural issues, a hole in the roof of his mouth, jaw alignment problems, which mean he has to chew everything right in the front of his mouth. He describes himself as eating like a tortoise or some prehistoric swamp thing, so he has to focus intently just to avoid being messy.
And this public performance is what attracts the cruelest social mechanism. The staring, the whispering, and then Summer's intervention.
Summer's courage in that moment is it's almost shocking. She was not on Tushman's welcome committee. She wasn't told to be nice to him.
No.
She sees Auggie totally isolated, just staring at his sandwich, and she simply claims the table. She initiates this summer-only lunch table, joke-inviting Auggie because their names are calendar months. She just creates this non-judgmental, kind space because she chose to.
And that choice immediately has a cost. The social fallout coalesces into this single brutal metaphor that every kid understands. The plague.
The sources explicitly compare it to the cheese touch from Diary of a Wimpy Kid. It's all about leveraging social fear. Auggie is declared the old moldy cheese that kids are terrified to touch.
It's a game.
A horrible game called the plague. Kids scramble to wash their hands or physically run away if they accidentally brush against him. And what's so chilling is that it's not just about avoiding Auggie, it's about enforcing conformity. If you touch him, you have to be punished or you'll contaminate others. It's groupthink distilled into a hostile game.
And we learn that Auggie, despite his isolation, he has this surprisingly sophisticated self-awareness about the whole dynamic. He uses the Wookiee analogy.
It's a brilliant internal comparison. He asks himself, what if a Wookiee went to my school? And he admits that even he would be curious. He might stare, but he wouldn't be malicious.
Right.
He'd just be pointing out the undeniable fact that a Wookiee is different. He understands curiosity. What hurts him, what he can't accept, is the malicious intent behind it all. He wants them to notice the difference, but then move past it to see the person.
That's the tightrope he walks every single day, accepting he'll always be noticed, but hoping to change why he's noticed.
So as August is struggling through all this, the sources introduce probably the single most important thematic element of the whole story, Mr. Brown's English class and the idea of precepts.
This is the moral guidance these kids desperately need.
Absolutely. Mr. Brown defines a precept as a rule about important things, a famous quote, or a ground rule that can motivate you. It's basically a tool for ethical decision-making. The goal isn't just teaching grammar, it's providing a compass.
And the September precept, the very first one, is the cornerstone of the whole text.
It is. When given the choice between being right or being kind, choose kind.
And that moves way beyond just simple politeness. It suggests that kindness is often a difficult, active, and sometimes costly moral action. It implies a struggle.
A sacrifice of your own ego, or what you think is right, for someone else's well-being. And in October, Mr. Brown doubles down on this with, "Your deeds are your monuments."
Taken from an Egyptian tombstone, right?
Right. And it's crucial because it sets up the climax later in the year. It tells the students that their daily actions, their choices about kindness, about standing up or sitting down, that's what will define their legacy. It connects the small choices they make in 5th grade directly to the scope of their character.
And this is where Augie's world is completely shattered and where those precepts are truly tested. Halloween.
Ah, Halloween. For Auggie, it's a sanctuary. It beats Christmas because he gets to wear a mask and be noticed by no one. It fulfills his wish that every day could be Halloween.
He craves that anonymity so much. The sources detail the costume, how his mom painstakingly painted his Jango Fett costume green to make it Boba Fett.
But on the morning of Halloween, his sister, Via, is having this huge emotional crisis, a massive crying meltdown about her own high school stuff. So Dad is rushed, he takes Auggie to school, and Auggie, in this moment of panic and convenience, he just grabs a simple mask from last year, the Bleeding Scream costume.
The ultimate irony of the Bleeding Scream costume is that it gives him the anonymity he wanted, but that same mask lets him witness the ultimate betrayal.
He walks into homeroom, completely unrecognized,
Yeah.
and he overhears Jack Will talking to Miles and Henry. And Jack, feeling safe in their little circle, he admits that he only hangs out with Auggie because Mr. Tushman asked me to.
Oof.
He questions why Auggie follows him around, admits he feels stupid hanging out with him. It's an act of deep self-protection for Jack, but it's just a knife in the back for August.
And the pain is magnified because Auggie had really dropped his guard. He thought he was safe with Jack.
Completely. And he doesn't confront him. He just retreats, fakes a stomachache, stays home for days just to avoid him.
And this incident, it forces this moment of painful, necessary maturity.
It does. When Via finally confronts him about skipping school, he breaks down and tells her about Jack. And Via, seeing his pain and his decision to keep it a secret, she realizes that he needs to grow up now. The protective bubble is gone. He has experienced true, agonizing betrayal, and he has to figure out how to manage it himself.
The sources then shift focus, which is so important. We get Jack's perspective so we can understand his path to redemption, and it's rooted in this pivotal early encounter.
Jack's initial reluctance to befriend the deformed Auggie was totally real. But we learn his mind was changed long before Tushman even called him. He remembers seeing August years earlier at an ice cream shop.
Right?
And Jack gets startled and made this sound, because he thought Auggie was wearing a zombie mask.
And the sources really emphasize his younger brother Jamie's reaction.
Yes, Jamie, who's normally a really nice kid, had nightmares. He kept asking why the boy was wearing a mask.
Oh, well.
And that moment, witnessing that innate, involuntary cruelty, even from his own good-natured little brother, that's what changed everything for Jack.
He realized.
He realized that if a nice kid like Jamie was horrified just out of fear, Auggie doesn't stand a chance in middle school. And that's what spurred him to call Mr. Tushman and agree to help. He saw the existential unfairness of it all.
So after Halloween, Jack is trying to figure out why Auggie is giving him the cold shoulder. He goes to Summer for advice.
And Summer, who is so fiercely loyal to Auggie, she can only give him this cryptic clue: Bleeding Scream.
Just 2 words.
And the brilliance of that is how long it takes Jack to piece it together. He agonizes over it. The memory finally flashes back to him during science class. The long white mask, the mouth wide open like the ghoul was crying. And he finally connects the mask he saw on Halloween to the conversation he had. He realizes the full gravity of his mistake.
And this realization, combined with Julian's constant taunts, it leads to that dramatic confrontation where Jack chooses action. Maybe not kindness, but action for the sake of kindness.
That's the moral ambiguity of the punch, isn't it? He sees Julian, and he just spontaneously reacts, punches him right in the mouth, knocks out a baby tooth.
And he won't explain why.
He refuses to explain his actions to Mr. Tushman because he's protecting Auggie from having the whole Halloween betrayal exposed. He's facing expulsion, but Tushman, who's a pretty sharp guy, he recognizes the complexity of it and gives him a holiday suspension instead.
But the sources make it very clear this isn't just a playground fight. Julian's mother introduces this systemic adult pressure.
This is the crucial context. Julian's mother is on the school board. She sends this chilling letter to Mr. Tushman, revealing that she had already told Julian he was off the hook from being friends with August.
Wow.
She complains that Beecher Prep is not an inclusion school, and she actively questions Augie's admission without a full, stringent interview.
And what does that letter really signify in the bigger picture?
It signifies the adult, privileged resistance to inclusion. It shows that while the kids are navigating these individual moments of cruelty and kindness, some of the adults are actively trying to preserve a homogeneous, easy environment. Julian's mother sees Auggie not as a child, but as a burden, a liability, and a hardship placed on other young, impressionable minds.
So the pressure Jack and Summer felt wasn't just peer pressure.
No, it was adult-sanctioned exclusivity.
So with the fight and the suspension, the social dynamic shifts again. Julian retaliates by turning the whole school against Jack, making Jack the new victim of the plague.
The irony is so rich, and it's so necessary for Jack's growth. He is now the one who's isolated. He's avoided by the popular group he so desperately wanted approval from. He finally realizes the value of genuine friendship when he finds himself eating all alone.
That experience of isolation gives him the empathy he was lacking.
Deep, necessary empathy. The kind he didn't have when he was complaining about Auggie behind the bleeding scream mask.
And this leads directly to their reconciliation.
It does. Auggie and Summer welcome Jack back to their lunch table, and Jack is so relieved. He realizes that the authenticity of their table is worth way more than any social currency with Julian's crowd.
And their friendship is symbolized by their science project.
Yes, their success as science partners. They team up on the Spud Lamp project, the organic battery made from potatoes. And their collaboration earns Jack his first A all year. It's a physical representation of their positive, generative relationship.
Auggie also tests Summer's loyalty during this time, doesn't he? He asks her directly if Mr. Tishman told her to be his friend.
He needs to be sure. He needs to confirm the authenticity of his few safe spaces. And Summer's response is just beautiful. She fiercely denies it, swears on her life, even shakes off her UGG so he can see her toes aren't crossed.
It's amazing.
It confirms that her choice was purely her own. It solidifies their friendship as a genuine act of intentional kindness, not some coerced mentorship.
At the same time, Auggie starts to experience these significant physical and emotional milestones that change how he sees himself. His hearing loss is one of those challenges.
Right, his medical journey is ongoing. He starts hearing this constant, loud ocean sound in his head, which is a side effect of his condition causing conductive hearing loss. He flunks an audiology test, and it confirms he needs hearing aids.
And he hates the idea.
He hates it. He knows they'll just draw more attention, even though he knows, self-deprecatingly, they'd be the least of his problems.
But when he gets the new devices, which he calls Lobot ears, after the Star Wars character, the experience is transformative.
The moment the aids are turned on is described with this incredible sensory analogy. The ocean sound just vanishes. And he describes hearing sounds like shiny lights in my brain.
What a great description.
Isn't it? He compares his old hearing to being in a dark room with a burnt-out light bulb. And you don't realize how dark it is until someone changes the bulb and the room becomes bright. His ears are hearing brightly now. It suggests that true clarity, whether it's auditory or emotional, requires a willingness to confront and fix what's broken.
He also makes this really proactive choice about his image by cutting off his Star Wars Padawan braid.
It's a small but powerful gesture of self-determination. He realizes he can't change his face, but he can change some of the other attributes that define him. He's trying to control what he's known for.
Taking back some agency.
Exactly. And that simple decision leads to one of the most emotional parental revelations in the whole story.
The revelation about the astronaut helmet.
Yes. Dad confesses he secretly threw out the helmet years ago, not because it was lost, but because he deeply missed seeing Auggie's face. He tells him, "I love this face of yours, Auggie," completely and passionately. And it kind of broke my heart that you were always covering it up.
Wow. That must have been so difficult for the father, the one who is always the source of levity. It speaks to the complexity of parental love.
It really does. It shows the father's own emotional journey. He helped create the protective bubble, but he also needed Auggie to shed the mask, not just for Auggie, but for his own sense of connection. He kept it a secret because Mom would have killed him. It highlights the different forms of devotion in the family. Nate just needed to see his son, not the shield.
And while Auggie is finding his place in middle school, Via is struggling in high school trying to find her own identity, away from just being Auggie's sister.
Via tries so hard to keep Auggie a secret. She loves the freedom of just being Olivia. She admits to her boyfriend, Justin, that she's never been embarrassed by August, but it just felt good to be free from the constant whispering and the gravitational pull of his needs.
And her transition is complicated by her old best friend, Miranda.
Right, Miranda, who has shut her out since summer camp. And Miranda's behavior is probably the most complicated act of emotional calculus in the entire book. She seems cruel, but it's rooted in this strange, deep loyalty.
What do you mean?
Well, at summer camp, Miranda started playing this make-believe game. She lied to the popular girls about her life, said she lived in a huge townhouse, and most importantly, that she had a deformed little brother. And these lies made her instantly popular. She used the tragedy of Augie's life to gain social currency.
But the sources say she genuinely sees August as family, despite using his reality for her social lie.
Precisely. She believes she earned the right to think of him as my brother, since she'd known him since he was 6, and even gave him the original astronaut helmet. Her use of his story wasn't just exploitative, it was her strange way of acknowledging the profound impact he had on her.
And this all comes to a head during the high school play Our Town.
Yes, Miranda is the understudy for the lead role, Emily. On opening night, she sees Auggie and his family arrive, and she knows that if she performs, Via will just be Augie's sister in the audience's eyes. So in this sudden act of incredible sacrifice, she fakes being sick.
She says, I'm not going on.
Right. And this forces Via, who is unexpectedly brilliant, to step into the spotlight. Miranda watches from the wings, and she sees this act as giving back to her chosen family, giving Via the moment of singular glory she was always denied because of Augie's needs.
It's an extraordinary resolution built on this really complicated shared history of love and sacrifice.
So the stage is set for the culmination of August's journey, the 5th grade nature retreat. This is the ultimate social test, away from the controlled environment of school.
And Auggie is nervous. It's his first real sleepover since a previous attempt ended with him being picked up at 3 a.m. He is relieved, though, that Julian skips the trip, calling it dorky.
So the immediate source of hostility is gone.
Exactly.
And the sources detail the environment: real woods, fog, the sound of crickets. Auggie is actually doing pretty well. He notes that his new low-baud hearing aids let him hear better than most of his peers. But the pivotal incident happens on the second night, at the fairgrounds.
Jack and Auggie leave the movie screen area to go pee in the dark woods, and they run into a group of older 7th graders led by a boy named Eddie.
And they are explicitly doing things they didn't want their teachers to know about.
Right.
Eddie recognizes Auggie, immediately shines a flashlight in his face, calls him an ugly freak, and grabs his hood, pulling him down to the ground. This is Augie's moment of maximum vulnerability. He says he realized he should run, but he wouldn't leave Jack. He felt like a lamb to the slaughter.
And here is where the year's moral training just pays off in a huge way. The former neutral, even slightly hostile crowd, Amos, Miles, and Henry, suddenly appear.
This is the monumental shift. Having followed Jack and Auggie, they unexpectedly rush in to defend them. Amos rams into Eddie like a monster truck, and it starts this brief, frantic fight. This unsolicited act of physical protection just shatters the social barrier.
Henry grabs Augie's arm and pulls him to safety.
The outcome isn't totally clean. Augie's hearing aid headband gets ripped off and lost, later found mangled in Eddie's locker, which confirms the malice. But the social victory completely outweighs that physical loss.
Absolutely. The shared danger creates this immediate lasting bond.
And when they escape, the former neutral crowd treats Auggie and Jack like heroes. They start calling Auggie little dude. They're high-fiving them and acknowledging Augie's courage.
It was cool how you stood your ground, little dude.
And when they get back to school, the story of the fight precedes them. Yes, Auggie is no longer just the kid with the face. He's the kid who is defended by the jocks. He is now finally one of them. The monuments have been built through deeds.
And that sets the stage for the emotional climax of the year, graduation, and Mr. Tushman's commencement address.
Tushman's speech is focused entirely on the core theme of the year. He emphasizes that the best measure of growth isn't grades, but how you have treated other people. He brings back that September precept, urging them always to try to be a little kinder than is necessary.
The power of that phrase, a little kinder than is necessary, is its focus on intentionality. It demands a deliberate decision to exceed the bare minimum of decent behavior.
It's the difference between being polite and being kind. Politeness is necessary, kindness is intentional, and it's often sacrificial. And Tushman reinforces this by quoting Christopher Nolan, tying human kindness to something almost divine.
It was at moments such as these that Joseph recognized the face of God in human form. It glimmered in their kindness to him.
It caressed in their gaze. He's basically telling the students that if they are just a little kinder than necessary, they allow someone else to see the divine, or at least the purest form of human character in them. And this ties back so beautifully to Auggie's initial refusal to describe his face.
It completes the loop.
Completely. Auggie didn't want the world to judge his face. And Tushman is suggesting that through intentional kindness, the students can offer a glimpse of a higher, purer self. And then, Auggie is called up for the highest non-academic award.
The Henry Ward Beecher Medal, honoring the student whose quiet strength has carried up the most hearts.
Augie's completely stunned, and the kids around him, they start chanting his name. Auggie, Auggie. Jack is leading the chant, and Summer is giving him a thumbs up and mouthing, cool beans. It's an explicit recognition of his internal resilience.
And the culmination of the entire narrative, the standing ovation.
As August walks up those steps, the entire auditorium rises to his feet, whooping, clapping a full standing ovation. And this fulfills his profound internal wish, stated earlier in the sources. Everyone in the world should get a standing ovation at least once in their life because we all overcometh the world.
He said he felt like he was floating.
Receiving that applause, not for some impossible feat of strength, but just for having survived 5th grade with his spirit intact.
And the sources conclude with this final, powerful image of acceptance after the ceremony.
In the group photos, it's Auggie, Jack, and Summer, but then they're joined by Henry, Miles, Amos, Savannah, even Julian's former friends. They're all laughing and squeezing in tight together. And the crucial detail is that no one seemed to care if it was my faces next to theirs or not.
Yeah.
The social force of the plague is gone. Augie's character, affirmed by his own deeds and the deeds of his friends, transformed his social standing from outcast to core member of the community. #outro.
It is just a phenomenal analysis of how one person's presence can reshape an entire social system. We followed August's journey from being the cheese touch. The contagion kids ran screaming from Dimchar to receiving a standing ovation for his quiet strength.
And that growth, it wasn't driven by Auggie changing his appearance. It was driven by the intentional choices of kindness and courage made by the people orbiting him. Summer, Jack, Amos, even Miranda.
It's a testament to the fact that inclusion isn't a passive state. It's an active, constant decision.
Character is a process of continually choosing kindness over being right and choosing compassion over the convenience of looking away. Mr. Brown's precepts gave them the framework, but the students built the monuments with their deeds.
And that idea of individual moral guidance really lasted. We saw the students develop their own precepts by the end of the year. Summer's advice was wonderfully grounded. If you can get through middle school without hurting anyone's feelings, that's really cool beans.
Cool beans. I love that.
Me too. And August's profound realization, the one that culminated in the standing ovation. Everyone in the world should get a standing ovation at least once in their life because we all overcometh the world.
That phrase connects right back to the core challenge. Auggie understood that while his face was fixed, the perception of his entire self, his character, was dynamic. It changed based on the generosity and courage of those around him. The sources show us that kindness isn't just an abstract good, it is a measurable, transformative force in the real world.
So we'll leave you with this final provocative thought to mull over. If kindness is truly quantifiable only by its impact on others, and if the goal is to be a little kinder than is necessary, what simple yet intentional act of kindness could you perform today that might fundamentally change someone else's definition of what is normal or what is possible?
What monument can you build with a single deed?
Think about that as you go about your day.